So we get feedback, right? Like the next step in this process is, what is the feedback? And I'm not talking about feedback from you guys. Unfortunately, I don't care what you think or what you say, but we got feedback on the tape now. So we get to watch the tape and say, what does the feedback say? And figure out, you know, who we are and where we go from here. I was very proud of Carson in his first start. I thought he had great composure. Really, that was almost the epitome of every scrimmage he had. He threw the ball away when he had to. He hit the spots when he had to. He made good decisions. He didn't put us at risk. He made good checks. He did some really good things, and I'm really proud of him. We got to get some more help around him from weapons and get some guys healthy, but proud of what he did. Got to turn the ball over better on defense, and we got to make some plays on special teams. But I thought C.J. Smith and Muse really stepped up tonight. They're two guys that had outstanding camps, and it rolled over into opportunities. I mean, those two guys had never really made a play in a game, and they went out there tonight and were able to do that. That'll pay dividends down the road. So with that, I'll open it up for you guys' suggestions or questions.
Coach, you mentioned y'all practice relatively well this week. When there's a slight, maybe a disconnect between practice performance and game performance, where might that disconnect lie?
It could be anxiety. It could be the team we play. They did a good job. They I wouldn't say they controlled the line of scrimmage, but they stopped the run well. We were not explosive in the run game outside of 2 runs, maybe, I don't know. But they did some nice things, and we got an opportunity to improve on a lot of things and get better, and find the guys that we got to say who touches the ball. And there were some pretty good ones over there on the sideline that didn't get to touch it. And we knew we were going to have to spread it around and get Rara involved, get Aaron involved, get Dylan Bell involved, and find guys that are going to be weapons for us throughout the year. Dom, Muse, and we got to continue to use those guys.
No Bland and no Marcus, what are they dealing with? And then sort of going off what you were just saying, your evaluation of the receivers who did play, how they played.
Hard to say. I hadn't watched it much. Lad's dealing with a back. Marcus is internal issue. So, I hope to get both those guys back soon. And we got to get better all the way around the board. We got to get everybody back. Jackson Meeks is a guy that had an unbelievable camp who's dealing with a foot injury. So when you look at it, there's just a lot of guys that they're just beat up and banged up. But that's not an excuse. That's just we got to go out there and play with the guys we got.
Kirby, you had a new offensive coordinator for the first time since 2019, I guess, or 2020 was the first for Todd. But how do you think things went with Mike tonight?
Well, it went really well. I thought we struggled a couple times early. One of the most critical plays, 2 plays in the first half, where we had a 3rd down that we executed probably 1,000 times in camp. And Dom and Carson weren't on the same page. Ended up, Carson thought he was going to sit down. Dom thought he was breaking in. He threw a little behind him. We convert that. We feel like we go on and score. That hurt us. And then settling for a field goal before the half was frustrating. We've been really good in those situations. Like we were going to get a score there, a touchdown, and we're going to get the ball right back in the second half, because when you get the last possession, the first possession, you can go 14-0, and we missed out on those 2 things. So I wish I had those 2 back, but I thought that our guys functioned well, especially when Carson was in and out of the pocket, getting the ball to Brock, which we limited that some. We could have certainly got it to him even more, but we want to make sure that we're smart about that and we get the ball to other guys.
Kirby, you got the young quarterbacks in late. Can you comment on Brock and Gunner?
Yeah, I thought both of them got to come in and play. It was important to let them play and not sit there and hand the ball off. And Gunner's group didn't execute as well as maybe they should have, and he made some plays around it with his feet. Brock's group got holdings and cost him 1 series there that he played well. They just self kind of inflicted wounds around it we can't have, but he came out and had another good series. So both those guys, look guys, they continue to get better. And I am so pleased with their progress and what they're doing. We're in such a good position there because they both play. I mean, you only saw, I don't know, 6, 7 plays of each one of them. I've seen 20 and 30 plays of them, and I feel really good about each day they get better.
With Carson, did you sense him getting more and more comfortable as the game went on with each series?
I never thought he wasn't comfortable. Like Carson's got a calmness about him, a poise about him. There's really only 2 throws I wish he had back. The overthrow to Arian that was really long, and Arian got behind the defense, and then the 3rd down that, man, we should have executed that.
Kirby, obviously it's only first game, but when the bar is so high, the expectation level is so high, and you're playing a program that a lot of people think you should walk over. I'm just curious as a coach how you measure what a successful night is.
The expectations were never higher than they are in our building. So we have high expectations, and I think our coaching staff will tell you that if you're sitting on our headphones and you're sitting in our building, we internally look at ourselves harder than anybody. But I'm never gonna apologize for a win. I learned a long time ago when a player that's not here in the NFL now came to me and said, I've never felt like when I win, I lose. And it'll never be that way for me. So I'm very proud of the guys and ecstatic. We got a lot to work on though.
Coach, you mentioned allowing the younger quarterbacks to operate within the offense. Has that been a philosophy change over the years where we gotta get guys game reps, or is that something you've always stood by?
I've always stood by it. It's just been times that the game was too far out of hand, or maybe it was the third quarterback and not the second quarterback. You know, the third quarterback sometimes is further away, and we got a battle going on at two that we need to see who's gonna play if something happens to Carson. And those two guys are neck and neck, and we want to give both those two guys an opportunity to play. Last year was a little different because Carson needed to come in and play, and Brock didn't always get those opportunities. But we want to see Brock and Gunnar both go in and play within the offense, because that's where you see their mistakes and their flaws, or you see their strengths and their weaknesses.
Kendall, you were pretty blunt about the run game in the first half in your halftime assessment on radio. How much of that is intensity versus scheme or just execution?
You know, I don't know. I have to go back and watch the tape and see. I don't think it's necessarily a scheme. I mean, we have the runs we have, and we run the same runs everybody in America runs. So a lot of that's going to be, do we get movement? Do we have the wrong mic point? Did they just whip us? You know, there's times where we didn't get movement and should get movement. And did a back make anybody miss? Because ultimately, the best runs I've ever seen are the ones that you break tackles on, and you got to be able to do that too.
So back to that Marcus internal issue, is it somebody who was in school, a team, something off the field that happened? Or you saying it's internal?
I don't think I have to discuss that, right? So it's one of those deals that we keep our discipline internally, and Marcus knows why he didn't play tonight, and hope we get him back.
Kendall was first back in there and seemed pretty excited about getting to play, overcoming those injuries and everything. How did you feel about his performance? And
He was not 100%. He played because he wanted to play and he wanted to help. He didn't want us to get to go out and play with two backs that had never played a college football game. And he would probably tell you he was about 90%. And as the game wore on, he tightened up some and started to bother him with his hamstring. But I mean, he has not done much all camp. He hasn't been able to. He's just now getting back to where he could do some things. And Dejan was not, he probably could have played, but he was less percent than Kendall. So I was very proud of Kendall. He stepped up, picked up a blitz, did some really nice things. We're going to need Kendall and Dejan to play really well.
What can you say about the weapon that Brock Bowers has developed for you? I mean, we saw him at play back, play down, and receiving for you tonight.
Yeah, he's been doing it since he got here. I mean, he really tonight showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit. He's been banged up too, and you wouldn't have seen it or noticed it with the way he played. He's a competitor.